Hey guys, breakout room number 3. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Good. Let me see to make sure that we're not expecting anybody else from my list. James, help me out if you. Looks like we're expecting Katharina, Geraldine, William.
I'm here.
Chris.
I'm here.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm just doing a quick little roll call here. Let me turn on my participant list here. Nick, it's good to see you again. I know you were here last month.
Chris Martini. So at the moment, it looks like, Brett, that we may be missing Geraldine, William, and Carrie. Unless they've just not put their photographs up.
Okay, and that's fine. I mean, we can never guarantee that everybody's going to attend the meeting. So it looks like we've got a good group here. So welcome to the breakout group. My name is Brett Wallace. I'm with Arlington County staff. I'm in the planning department. I'm also the PFRC coordinator and liaison for the county. So I work very closely with APS on the coordination of these meetings. And I'll be facilitating the discussion this evening using some of the information that was just presented by Mr. Chambers. And we've got some questions. I'm also joined here by James Michael with APS, who's going to be helping out with taking some notes. So why don't we just do a quick round of introductions really quick, just so we get to know each other, and then we'll just jump right in. I'll start with Nick.
Hi, I'm Nick Carrasco. I'm representing the Arlington Heights Civic Association, which is the association that houses this campus. So.
Thank you. I'll next move over to Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Martini. I'm the Director of Career Technical Adult Education, Arlington Public Schools.
Okay, Katharina.
Hi, I'm Kathy Genovi. I'm the principal at MPSA.
And Heywan Kim.
Hi, I'm Heywan Kim. I'm a parent of a senior at Arlington Tech and the chair of the Arlington Tech Advisory Committee.
Okay, well, again, welcome. I see we're also joined by school board member David Pretty, who's going to be observing, probably floating around between different groups. So we welcome him as well.
I'm James Meikle. It's actually Jim is just fine, Jim Meikle. And I'm the Director of Maintenance by day. But tonight I'm going to do my best to capture your thoughts in the notes.
All right. Thanks, Jim, and welcome. I know it's been a while since I've seen you, so it's good to see you again. So what I'm going to do is, as I mentioned, we have some discussion questions. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions. I'm going to pull them up. I'm going to share my screen. And they're mostly related to some of the graphics and information that Mr. Chambers with APS just shared in terms of some of the revised concept plans. So bear with me for a second. Let me pull up my screen. And if needed, I'm happy to refer back to any graphics or concepts that were shared, because I know that was a lot of information. So I want to make sure that we have all the resources here needed.
While you're doing that, Brett, let me just kind of explain. I've kind of made a little cheat sheet here with everybody's name against each question so that I can try and capture their individual thoughts and comments. And the guidance we were given was to try and at least engage each person who's in attendance on every question. Again, you will still have the option to say, I don't have a comment on that, but you will be given the opportunity to comment on each question. And in the case of questions 1, 2, and 3, each 2 parts of the question.
Okay, thanks, Jim. And again, if needed, I have the graphics that were just shared, we can refer back to. But why don't we just jump right in with the first question? For the first 3 questions, there are 2 parts. The first question related to the public space that was just mentioned between the existing Career Center building and the new Career Center building that's on Walter Reed Drive. Mr. Chambers noted that there could be circulation for bus off of Walter Reed that could occur between the existing and the new building, but then during off-peak times, that could be more of a pedestrian space, more of a shared kind of plaza space, as was shown in some of the earlier renderings. So the first part of the question, the revised site concept that's being proposed would support both bus and service operations during the school day, and as I mentioned, resemble more of a public plaza at all times. Are there any features of this proposal that you like best? So we'll start there, and feel free to just jump right in. And I think the second part of the question will just be, again, are there any alternatives or suggestions that you have? So again, there may be a little bit of overlap in the commentary, but feel free to jump right in if there's anything that appeals to you with that initial concept. So I'll open it up.
Yeah, and initially, if we could try again, we have sort of finite time. So if we can try and just go through in the order, I'll just use the order that I have here in my notes initially, but it won't preclude you adding something. And we do have a section at the end that can capture any other points, general points that come out during the discussion. So the first one on my list is Kathy Genova.
Hey, so my only question was, and if I'm remembering correctly, it seemed to be, I couldn't tell if it was just going to be wide enough for one bus to go through. So I know they're working on a bell schedule right now. We have a different schedule than Arlington Career Center, so that works well for us now. I'm just wondering if they're keeping that in mind moving forward, because it doesn't seem like the buses would stop for ACC students and then they would be unable to keep going in order to pick up MPSA students if they're traveling along that same path like I saw in the picture. Does that make sense? So I would want to make sure that we are on alternating bell schedules.
Okay, got that. Sorry, the next one on my list here is Chris Martini.
Okay, I like the pedestrian space in between there. I would also like to understand if it's how wide it is. The reason that I was thinking that is, and looking at the facility, I mean the whole plan, is that we have a program with George Washington University where they bring a big RV over for our students to do some, virtual health things. And so if we did that, I was looking for, and it's a RV that takes up about 5 parking spots, and then it kind of bumps out on each side. So I was wondering, I doubt it would be able to go in the garage. It probably wouldn't be able to go in the bus loop, but I'm wondering if there was some space on that plaza where it'd be wide enough to be able to get buses past, because we're going to have it for about a week at a time, 5 weeks during the year. So that's the only thing I was but I do like the plaza. I like the way that they have a bit of a design on it, where people can kind of walk through and kind of get to the fields, and it just makes it a little bit more open, I think. And I do like the functionality of being able to have the buses go through there.
Okay. And then next up I had Nick.
Yeah, from an aesthetic point of view, I think the idea looks great. There is just, the logistical issue of getting the buses in and out. And so, and coming out onto Walter Reed is not always the easiest thing depending on traffic there. So I'm curious how they would address the exit onto the Walter Reed. I prefer exiting on Walter Reed than having all the buses go back down Highland. I understand we can't get around that for MPSA, but there's a lot fewer buses I think going to MPSA than there are going to Tech. So, but on the aesthetics aspect, I like it. I'm looking at the image right now, yeah, it could be nice. I could see people using it on weekends as like picnic space almost.
And
I
then
assume they have some safe mechanism plan to how to prevent vehicles from getting on it during non-bus time usages. I'm sure there's those metal poles that get stuck in the ground, but I would hope that there's always a conscious effort to remember to put them back in place.
certainly, I mean, I can't speak to the actual details, but no doubt that would be part of the plan. And then the last person on here I've got is Haywan.
I like the plaza. It makes for a much more attractive campus than the current parking lot, which helps everybody at the school, students and staff. My biggest question was whether or not the ability to keep other traffic out of the area. You know, from what I see now is even when there are buses in the bus lane and stuff like that, cars will still come through that, you know, buses only entrance
Right.
all the time. And sometimes they'll use it to cut through. I've seen, you know, people turn off of Highland to cut through to get to Walter Reed and actually not stop for any reason on the campus.
Right. So all I can say that very briefly, because again we have limited time, is that a couple of other places where we have something similar to that in the past, it was very clearly demarked. As soon as the buses left, the barriers went right back up.
Yeah. And so I know we had asked before when the trailers were initially put in. Currently, because that area is, you know, the kids have to cross between the building to get to the learning cottages. What could be done to prevent the car traffic, and there was really no way except for putting just the rubber cones, which is not there now.
Okay.
And so cars still come by all the time. And so for a safety aspect for the students, you know, it's kind of like, okay, if there are permanent bollards that can either be raised automatically or screwed in, that's probably the most effective of keeping the alternate vehicle traffic out.
Okay. We will. That's noted from 2 or 3 of you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, maybe going into the second part of this question, and I think we're getting there. Are there any other features or suggestions that you have for this space as we've been discussing here? The control and enforcement of traffic through, I think, has been said. Are there any other suggestions or improvements for this potential public space?
I'm also wondering if the entrance to the school is going to be on the 9th Street side, and I'm assuming that the library entrance will remain where it is. Just how much mixing or mingling of, you know, for security reasons of,
Okay.
of people there would be.
So basically the correlation between the school entrance and the library entrance and how we avoid getting too much traffic in one area.
Right. And also, I mean, I'm assuming that, you know, the entrance will have the current buzzer system and everything. But still, you know, it's kind of like, okay, if there are community events or whatever happening, how do you maintain the security of
Okay.
the building?
Thank you.
Okay, good question. And I did not mention the curb cut along Walter Reed, and then if there's any alignment with some of the principles of civic design. I know you don't all have those memorized, but in terms of providing connectivity through the site, permeability, access, the front door of the Career Center on Walter Reed, which is a major arterial. If there's any other comments in terms of the public space in this location here along Walter Reed, we welcome any comments there.
Since we were talking about the front entrance, can I just mention that our address for MPSA is 701 South Highland, and our entrance is actually not on Highland. That is actually we use it for car riders and walkers because that's the where the car riders come, but the front door is not actually there, and visitors can't come in that way. They have to be buzzed in through the front office. So I'm just a little afraid this is going to cause a little more confusion. It's already challenging for them to find our front door. And so with this new proposal and the building kind of closing off that entire area, I think it's going to be even more challenging for them to identify where the front door to the school actually is.
Okay.
And forgive me, where is the front door? Just for my own knowledge.
It's in the parking lot. It's
It's along
one.
the bus lane.
It faces actually ACC. It faces
I
the parking lot.
I had hoped
Okay.
they were gonna fix that address issue with telling where the entrance was when they switched from Henry to MPSA. Because it was the same problem with Patrick Henry. No one could find the entrance. So
Yeah. And then the marquee is on the Walter Reed side. So that is helpful when people find trying to find the school. But now I'm assuming that marquee is, I don't know, going to be relocated or so there. So I guess I'm just wondering, there's not going to be any indication of MPSA's location from Walter Reed at all.
well, there's also no entrance anymore from Walter Reed. So how are we gonna? That's something to note somewhere, that we've got to have signage, marquees that say what's on the campus, but also tell people how to get onto the campus, because otherwise you're going to have people going backwards on that plaza / bus lane.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we definitely need to make sure there's clear signage, and the signage has been terrible for years. So
Are you referring to 8th Street, the vehicular connection that kind of aligns with the Montessori school? Is that what
So
you're referring to?
where the marquee now is, that's the one way going in. And then the Highland side is the exit. And then the Career Center does the opposite path. So their buses go in on the Highland side and come out on Walter Reed.
Okay,
Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
I get it. Yeah.
So
Yeah, no,
clearly they will need to do a fairly significant rationalization of the marquees and the signage for the whole campus, even as early part of this project.
Thank you.
especially the minute you close off, that's the entrance from Walter Reed that we have now for the construction. It's going to throw off
Right.
all the transportation patterns, and so that needs to be clearly identified from day one.
Yeah, all the parents come in there. I've observed it myself. Yep. Okay, noted.
Any other thoughts or comments on the Walter Reed entrance?
Crosswalks, where would they be? Because it could potentially, people's tendency is to try to create the shortest distance as opposed to going all the way to a corner to cross the street. So
Yes. So, Haywan, are you talking about crosswalks on South Highland and on Walter Reed?
yes,
Or yes, yeah, okay.
especially Walter Reed, since
Yeah.
it is a major road and we have walkers, bikers, who they're not gonna want to, cross at the corner, they're gonna want to go in the middle of the block if that's
Right.
where the entrance
Well,
is.
I think there are two already there, actually, that are
Yep.
gonna hit that. There's one that's down from the stoplight, that is close, not too far from the entrance for the parking or the bus lane for Montessori. And then there's one down farther as well. So there are already
Right.
two that are there that
Yeah, I
are
think-
not at the
Well,
corners.
and also that's partially, I think, needs to be addressed with the Complete Streets project, because like one of the crosswalks does not have have a cutout for the sidewalk, and so you're stepping off of the curb. I know a lot of this is also being addressed by that was it the Complete Streets? Is that the name of the project? I forget the name of this.
Yeah.
That's affecting. Yeah. So we just want to make sure that we feed input into them so that they know that they need to, when they're doing this, to potentially realign those crosswalks to more student-friendly locations.
Right, and I think the challenge will be much more on South Highland Street, assuming that lots of MPSA folks stop coming in from Walter Reed and are more likely to come in from the other side. And so that's the crosswalks on there may have to be rationalised somewhat more than the ones on Walter Reed.
At least that's what do you call it? I forgot what they called that street. We just had them over at our Sixers meeting. A yield street where it's designed that people yield to go through. Not that people do actually do it, but
Right.
that's not a thoroughfare per se as Walter Reed is. So, well, yes, we want to make sure they put them there, and there are, there are two crosswalks there now. But and there's also the four-way stop over there on 7th and Highland now. So that's
Right.
convenient. But
Yeah.
people drive Walter Reed way too fast.
Yeah.
High schoolers like to play Frogger.
Kathy, do you have a crossing guard at both sides at the moment, or just at the Walter Reed side?
We don't have any crossing guards.
You don't? Okay. Interesting.
Okay, well, no, this is all good.
Yeah.
Good feedback. Why don't we move on to question number 2 related to on-site parking. So as you've seen in some of the images, the preliminary plan includes an above-ground parking garage on Highland and 9th Street. Some of the feedback that we received from the first meeting indicated that some surface parking may be convenient and or preferred. Now that an estimated range for peak parking demand is available, APS is seeking feedback on how that estimate should influence the quality and location of the on-site parking. So the first part of this question is, how appealing to you is expanding the parking footprint around the existing Career Center building if it were to modify the shape and or height of the above grade parking garage? And I'll
Yeah. So
Go
you want to
ahead.
go first, Kathy? Again, we'll just keep the same order unless anybody feels strongly.
So again, this actually goes back to the main entrance of the school, right? And so if we have parents picking up their children or dropping their children off late, then they stop in front of the front door. And that's the only way they can come in, because that's where the front office is, and that's where somebody is to buzz them in, right, and let the student in. And so if we're thinking about, if that loop is going to be closed after buses go through, then we would still need cars to be able to come up to the front of the school to drop off and pick up children.
Okay.
Okay, so it sounds like you're speaking more to the pickup and drop off activity versus like the.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm not talking about arrival and dismissal. I'm talking about during the school day, when students are, maybe they're at a doctor's appointment and they don't come in till 10 o'clock. They can't be dropped off on Highland. There's no office there. There's no way for those students to be let in. Yeah.
So I'll call it off hours parking, and we understand what we mean by that. Off hours stopping at the front door. Yeah. Okay. Got that. Sorry, Chris. You're muted, Chris.
I think the parking garage where it is a good location for it. There are a couple of things though to consider, and I'm not sure. I don't know if I see where that would be. You know, when you have the handicap parking, if you're going over to the Career Center or to Montessori, it seems like it's a long distance from the car parking garage. So where would that be located? You know, as far as making some surface parking, I think, I mean, I would rather not see it, but, you know, in considering this thing from George Washington University, that could be a spot if there was some surface parking where that could be located as opposed in that other, you know, in the plaza area. So, you know, I guess it would be interesting to see what that would look like. I would rather see, I think, just the garage instead of having that surface parking.
Okay. Nick?
Well, I make my part of my comments. Can we bring up the images they showed of the potential surface parking around it, just so I can know where they're thinking about locating it?
Yeah.
Now that said,
it's right here. Yep. So it's the lighter shade of blue.
So while I like the idea of of generating a shorter building, I'm a little losing that much potential green space to maybe gain a floor, because it only says about 126 spaces for the surface parking, and it's 100 spaces per floor. I'd rather go up to, I mean, this is my neighborhood. I'd rather have, but I don't want a huge building there, but I'd rather have the extra floor and extra green space than no green space. So maybe like half of that, you know. And then, but my main concern is on the parking on this. I think this is the best location on the campus for it. But my main concern is, and I think Chris, you may have mentioned it and everything as well, is for accessibility. It's not accessible to the buildings that are going to be using it. You know, you need to then take a trek and a hike to get from the garage to either of the buildings. And, you know, so we need to have some. I always rather have some kind of surface parking, especially for accessibility, right much closer to the building somehow. I don't know how they accomplish that. And then kind of like what Katrina said, we've this idea of this parking garage. Well, again, it's a great location. It totally cuts off ability for any parent. I'm envisioning a kid at elementary school kids at MPSA, sick. Parent has to park all the way in the garage, walk all the way across there, and escort their sick child all the way back across the entire. It's then we need to think about some solution to make sure there's some feature, some way that you know, there, especially for the elementary school age kids, that there is some way of doing it, like Katina asked for it, or something, or you know,
Right.
on bell drop time periods for drop off and pickup.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that, right? They're just going to leave their cars standing idle on Highland.
Right.
And
then like I'm assuming it's a one-way out coming in right there where the bus loop is. Or they're going to come in that bus loop, make a weird U-turn, and park in front of the door like they do now. And so we just need to consider that.
They may have to consider creating a small loop directly in front of the school for that very reason, you know, if they have to come in and out the same way. But
that might not be a bad idea for off hours kind of, you know, entrance and exit especially for the MPSA. I don't think ACC really needs that extra little loop there, but you know, I'm a parent of elementary school kids. You know, they were actually there at Henry when it was Henry. Now they're at Fleet, and not having the, you know, a spot to be able to get in there is really can be troublesome.
Tough, right? Yeah. All right, captured that point, I think.
Yeah, that was that was brought up last meeting as well. There's the overall disconnect of the garage to the other overall campus.
Right.
Okay. Was there anybody else on the list there, Jim?
He1 hadn't talked about this one yet.
If we extend the parking footprint, I would rather that it be the extension along 9th Street be kept, and I would prefer the green space be kept along Highland. I think that's more suitable to the neighborhood and to the feel. Pick up and drop off is an issue in high school too. I mean, people forget their lunches or whatever. They still have doctor's appointments.
Yeah.
At Arlington Tech, we have seniors who leave after third period. So that's in the middle of the day to go to their internships or or whatever. So they don't have a normal, they're not leaving at normal
Right.
dismissal time. And, because we are a project-based school and stuff, there's always things that need to be dropped off, like bulky things that get dropped off at the school. I think I read in some of the materials that they were hoping to work with the county of offering some short-term parking along Walter Reed and possibly 7th, changing the way the parking is currently, now along 7th, it's that long 4-hour parking, and Walter Reed, I believe it's mostly 2-hour. But if they had some shorter, term where parents and people could
Right.
pull in to drop off their thing and then, or pick up the child or whatever for like 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
That
Okay.
would,
So increase short-term street parking if possible.
yeah, I think that would be a good compromise.
Okay.
We do, I'm pretty sure we have a student who is currently wheelchair bound. And just how that student would maneuver in and around and out the building is interesting to consider.
Right.
That's a good segue into the second part of the question, which is talking about on-street parking around the perimeter of the site. So historically, APS has relied on available and convenient on-street parking to support a limited portion of the peak parking demand. And so this question is seeking input on what type of groups should be prioritized for on-site parking. So, for example, the parking garage or the surface parking, whatever it may be, are there particular groups that the group would like to prioritize in terms of on-site parking versus, perimeter parking or curbside parking that we're just discussing? So,
Okay. So let's go. Oh, actually, Kathy looks like she stepped away, so we'll skip forward to Chris on this one. I don't know if you've got anything to say, Chris.
As I look at the different, clients there, I would say APF staff. I'd also say, the library staff. I would do that before I would prioritize the students and the library. There's a number of students that come over from the home schools.
Right.
So they're only there for an hour and a half. And I would, hate to have a parking spot, or I guess that would be accommodated when you're looking at how many are coming over. But I think the staff and the library staff would be the ones that should have the priority in the parking garage before the students would, or some of the visitors, thinking the library would also be a community library. So it could be walking distance for people and maybe they wouldn't have to drive.
Right.
So.
Okay. Kathy, we skipped you. You slipped away for a cup of tea, I guess.
Yes, no, my dog getting in trouble. I was just going to say, is this about the garage, prioritizing the garage or the street parking?
It's about both. It's about what certain groups and users should have prioritization over the on-site parking on the garage versus the neighborhood parking.
Right. So I guess I would just say the staff.
Right. Okay. That's consistent with Chris. Nick?
Yeah, from a community member, I would like to see the spaces that are on site reserved for the staff and for the library and for the schools, so that they don't have to take the spots of all the people who live there who can't park at the front of their houses because something's like. So I want to make sure there's plenty of spaces for any staff member to park there, And then I would I vaguely remember like the high school students I thought weren't allowed to drive to school. I know they do anyways, but I thought they were not supposed to be driving to campus and to school. And the principal has said that a couple of times that they are not supposed to be driving to school, even though we know they do, and they park in the city streets. So like, I don't think there needs to be reserved spaces for them in general. You know,
Yeah, I don't know if it's different at the career centre. I mean, I know at the other comprehensive high schools, they typically
they have students parking.
once they get to third, I guess, and fourth year,
Right, but
some of them drive.
that makes sense because they're there all day long in some degree. But like, I think a good percentage of the students coming in and out of the career center are there in shifts.
Right.
And so they should not be driving. They should be taking the transportation and stuff. Now, I do think there makes sense to have reserved parking for some of the students, as I'm going to butcher your name, so I'm not going to say like that. Our parent from the school says they do have co-ops and they do have internships. That they need to have access to their cars. So if you're in those programs, they should be assigned parts that they can have so they can get on and off, because they don't need to come out there and find their car has been towed because they parked somewhere incorrectly. So I do think there are some students that in that program that definitely deserve spots.
Okay.
As a library visitor, as long as there's ample street parking, available, I think that's more than sufficient. We're having to deal with it as now. There's no parking really available for library patrons right now. We get like, I think there's like 12 spots available for library patrons. So community is making do. Most of us walk. If not, we park on the streets that have valid parking spaces. So I think that's fine. I don't think we need to put a huge percentage of spots reserved for visitors for everything. As long as there's definitely some dedicated, like, short-term parking for pickup and drop off of some of these things and such like that, I think we're fine.
Okay. Hey, one.
I think staff of all sorts have priority. In one sense, it would be nice for visitors to have a clearly marked spot, like, okay, here, you park here. But from my experience at Yorktown and Greenbrier Park, where there's supposedly only parking, that the students take that over. And it's not enforced. And so it's kind of like, all right. As for the students who are in the CTE classes who are supposed to take the bus, sometimes it's a function of time. Yes, you're only at school for 1 or 2 periods, but at the same time, it's a lot quicker getting there by vehicle, your own car, than by taking the bus. And so if you are trying to do whatever, squeeze in, have lunch at home before going, I think I can understand why they would drive.
Okay.
Hey, Jim, I just popped in. I just wondered if you guys have any questions that I can answer.
Let me think, Jeff. I mean, you'll obviously have the opportunity to get all these notes eventually.
Oh, no, I just meant if anybody had something.
When I say the burning question, which is not so much about the career centre, but it's the impact, the second-hand impact on MPSA. If you put the building where you propose to put it, it seems like there wouldn't be an entrance to MPSA, which is where they actually have their main entrance at the moment. Sorry. So, what would be the provision for MPSA parents coming, as they often do when kids get sick or they have doctor's appointments and so forth, during the day, to pull up at the door and pick up? That might need some modification to enable that, right?
Yeah, so we are looking at that right now and how that would work. We don't have a resolution as of yet. We've been really focused on the public way and the buses and that big circulation of those. But we do understand, and we have said that we would have accessible parking, at the entrances of our buildings. So we have to look at that and how that works. And, it may be some modification to Highland. I'm not sure how we're going to do that yet, but we do have it on our radar to look at.
All right. I guess the other general question that's cropped up 2 or 3 times is that ADA parking, whilst the garage is where most people agree that's a good location for it generally, it doesn't seem a good location for ADA, especially with the career centre entrance at the opposite end, probably.
And again, we're working with the county on complete streets, but we are looking at accessible street parking. Because it's also going to serve the library disabled patrons rather than having them park in the garage and have to roll the whole way down there. And we are looking at how we do that, and that's some of the conversation and negotiation with the county that we're having on that and how that will work. So yes, we have to look at that accessibility. And we've kind of, with Fleet, the modification we made at Fleet for the front door parking and the changes we made at the Heights building. And we do have handicap parking pretty close to the front of Cardinal Elementary. We have made a commitment to have accessible parking at our public main entrances.
Okay. All right. Yeah, there's other ones I could ask, Jeff, but I think since we've got a finite time and we've got 3 more questions, we should probably move on.
I'll turn my camera off, maybe listen a little bit longer and,
Thanks for checking in.
Hop out. Thanks.
So I'll hand back to Brett.
Okay, good timing because I just had to step away for a quick second, so I just got back.
All right.
I just had one more thing because just listening to the previous comment, I don't know that it's going to help with staff parking away from the neighborhood. I think the distance to MPSA is just that is a really, really long way for staff to park, and I think they're just going to continue to look for street parking, no matter how much we prioritize staff parking in the garage.
Okay. So the distance from the garage to MPSA is what you're referring to, Kathy?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the street parking there, right behind our school, right behind the school on Highland, they're going to park there. They're going to park on the other road. They're going to look for. They're going to continue to look at neighborhood parking because it's just too far.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So we have just a little less than 20 minutes left to get through 4 more questions. The third question is about not only the building, but also the site concept, which we've been discussing. So the first part of the question is, which aspects of the building and the site concepts offer the most appeal to you? And then the second part would be, which offer the least appeal to you? So let me pull up some of the site diagrams that were shown earlier, just for reference. I think I'll just pull up some of the renderings, but Jim, why don't we get started with the first commenter, and so yeah, welcome any comments.
That would be Kathy, and it's not just because she's a principal, just where she is on the list. Kathy?
I mean, I think it's going to be a lovely building, and I like, I think it's going to look great. My only dislike would be that we're going to be hidden back there, and I don't know that anybody's going to be able to find us, other than the fact that we're in one of the oldest buildings, and so we're going to look a little dingy next to this new building.
Yeah. Okay. Chris.
I like the way that they broke up the front. I also like the terracing that they put on there. I think that's really nice. I think the site itself, the way they've got it laid out, looks good. I would agree with Kathy that I think Montessori is going to be dwarfed back behind there. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Nick.
Yeah, to echo the same thing. I like the concept of the terracing. I like the broken up angles. I agree. It's gonna be it's gonna look beautiful from Walter Reed. It's gonna look like a big monstrous building, flat size in the back facing MPSA. So maybe there's options that we can add some minor terracing or something on the backside so it doesn't look so,
right,
towering over in the back. Who knows? I think the other thing is I think some of these newer renderings bring it a lot closer. Like they bring it all the way to the edge of 7th Street. I would like to see a little further back from 7th Street.
Okay,
That could also just be the angle of these renderings. Like it's hard to tell from these pictures, but yeah, I
indeed.
think it's a little closer to 7th than we initially thought based on previous drawings.
Okay. And then here one.
I was really pleased at the step down and the terracing. It looks so different than the big mass that we looked at last time. And I'm excited about the possibilities for the terracing. I mean, you know, Chris, you could see like culinary arts or animal sciences making use of those terracing along with like environmental science and those classes. I'm wondering about, unlike at HB and some of the other schools who deal with the size and the inside structure of their building by they kind of keep each grade level a little bit separate. Because of the nature of Arlington Tech, we have kids going back and forth from core classes to CTE classes. And so if a kid has a class on one end of the building, I wonder how long it'll take for them to go to the other end and back.
Okay.
Just the logistics of within the building. But I mean, aesthetically, it's really pleasing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's always a concern at any new school that they're building. So noted. How about on the non-appeal side? Anybody feel strongly about any part of it? Some of it you've actually mentioned a little bit right there, but anything else from Kathy, from Chris? No. From Nick.
Nope, already mentioned.
Okay, and then Haywan, back to you already.
I think I mentioned about, you know, just the logistics of for the students traversing the inside of the building.
So logistics for class changes.
Yeah.
Okay, got that. All right. Brett, do you want to move on to number 4?
Yeah, thank you. All right, let's see here. Okay, so this question is regarding the alignment with the PFRC principles of civic design, which are being used to help, as Mr. Stockton said, kind of provide guardrails for the project, make sure we're providing good civic design in terms of orientation, building massing, circulation, materials, sustainability, all the good stuff. We certainly want to provide good civic facilities for our communities. So which, if any, of the principles of civic design do not seem to be reflected in the revised building and site concepts? And how might such principles be made more apparent in the concept design? Again, I realize you don't have the principles memorized, but just high level thinking, if there's anything that is a sore thumb that's sticking out in some of the site concepts that maybe don't align with some of our core guiding principles, we welcome any comments. I'll leave it at this. If you need to see another plan view, I can pull that up.
I don't know if this falls into that. I just the only thing I can think of is the plans for the existing building that's just kind of sitting there.
Okay, that's a good point. From a campus planning perspective,
right?
You know, an existing building, not knowing the future may be a concern. Okay.
Yep.
I would probably concur with that. I think everything else is looking pretty good.
Okay.
And I do like the way they've kind of laid things out because I think they are taking consideration on Highland as well. You know, that things aren't kind of going all the way up toward Highland. Seems
Right.
like the parking garage is over by the other parking garage that's in that neighborhood now. So I think they've done a nice job with that. And it looks like there's they are keeping green space as well, which is helpful.
Right. Nick, anything on this one?
It's a lot better. It's getting better with each revision. I think it's two things from a community, civic kind of adding to the scenario. It's like, yes, the existing building of the old facility not having any plan, creates wonder and question. Sometimes like if the building's not there, can we put the parking lot a little closer to the school or something like that, or lower parking lot? Just things that we could be doing if we knew we had a plan for that building. I think
Right.
having a plan for that building and that space would let us better adhere to these principles of civic design.
Okay.
Right now, we just got a big traffic cone in the middle of the road that we can't move. And
Okay.
so I think that's the biggest negative on these principles.
Okay. So
Right, and,
yeah, sorry.
uh,
That would enable maybe some better decisions if you knew exactly what was happening, right?
Correct. I think we would have a much better handle on the campus overall for principles of civic design, having a plan for that facility.
Okay. And Haywan.
I mean, I think it's, yeah, I mean, for what we've got, it's good. There are obviously questions about flow of people and cars. I know they're pressing a lot on discouraging the use of cars, but the reality is cars are not going away anytime quickly. So, I think the parking garage will be used and the street parking and the ways in between. So hopefully they'll be able to deal with traffic in and out of that bus loopy area. But yeah, on the whole, it's pretty good. I think Jeff had said in the past when he was talking to the Career Center community that, if they had to do away with the building, then they could provide a proper size outdoor field, which would be ideal, I think, for the community and for the school. I mean, we have an ultimate Frisbee team, but that the field as proposed is too small to play an ultimate game on. It's good for practice, but that's about it. But I guess that's better than what they do now, which is they run down to Thomas Jefferson, practice there, and run back.
All right.
Get some extra PT in.
So the extra PT is good, but understand your point. And so I'll actually list that under the last one, which is kind of additional general points as opposed to the specific civic design piece, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if you want to move on to that last. It's not really a question, but there's an opportunity, I think, under number 5 for you guys to raise any additional points based on your, what you read and all the homework that you all clearly done very thoroughly. Thank you. Any general points that you would like captured?
You're gonna go in order again, or just jump in?
Just jump in on this one.
I'm sorry. I would also just add if there's anything additional that maybe you thought was missing from tonight's presentation that you would want to see at the next presentation, I would also encourage you to add those points as well. So thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Brett. Yeah.
So just jumping in to echo on Haywan's comments. Yeah, I don't even think it needs to be that necessary that we know that we're going to get rid of the Career Center building itself, or even the MPSA building. If we want to swap the 2 locations and have the MPSA building for a field, or it'd just be nice. And even knowing that it wouldn't be part of this CIP and this process, knowing that there is a concept and a plan that we can at least attempt to put in this specific, this plan would be convenient. It'd be nice to know, because there's
Okay.
there's not enough field space. We're losing a diamond for these things. We're losing a lot of things and getting a little back in terms of field usage.
Got it. Anybody else?
But you would also get a full gym, this being basketball season, which would be key, and a black box theater. So you would get some facilities for the community to use that's not available now.
Well, we have the gym at MPSA has a full size basketball court in there that they use for some of this. They used to use it, at least back when it was Henry,
Right.
for some of these programs. The theater is definitely an addition that I think a lot of people are
So,
happy to have access to.
so a full gym and black box, Hay1, have they stated, and forgive me, I wasn't at the first meeting, that those are not included in the building at the moment?
Oh yeah, they're not there at all.
Currently,
They're-
we have our gym is the size of one of the auxiliary gyms of the.
Oh, no, I understand the existing gym in the existing building, but
Right.
are you suggesting that the new building at the moment so this new building that's massed along Walter Reed does not include a gym and a black box?
No, it includes a gym and it includes a black box. So those would be facilities
Right.
that they would lose the baseball diamond, but they would gain some extra indoor gym space and a black box theater.
Right, but if we knew that we were going to have only one of those two buildings there, the existing buildings, there, we could have potentially all of it. You could have the diamond, the gym, the theater, everything. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So the general point is the old building mystery is a handicap at the moment to doing optimum planning.
Correct.
Is that fair summary?
I think so, yes.
Okay, so we'll pass on that point.
I have a question for you, Kathy. Would they, like, if they reconfigured the entrance on Highland, is there space there for an office on that side of the school?
Nope.
I'm guessing that's why they kept it then in the parking lot side, your official entrance.
Well, as far as I know, that's been the entrance since it was Patrick Henry. It's always been the entrance.
Yeah, it was designed like that.
Yeah.
Ever since they built that building, that's where the entrance was. Because it was the idea that you walk in and through the back, you see this like garden and everything out there too.
And there is an entrance on Highland, but it's really a secondary third type entrance, much smaller.
Extended day pickup location. That's about all it's useful right now for. And they don't even have a way to buzz to let you know that you're there. You just kind of have to knock on the window, because I have a neighbor that I pick up there all the time, and I have to knock.
They have their own buzzer and doorbell.
They have an
That's
earphone.
new. Then it wasn't there last time I had to go pick up. So
there you go.
Yeah, it was installed this year.
Excellent. Good. Yeah, because I got tired of tapping on windows.
Kathy's had us do all sorts of stuff there. All right.
I have we have a few minutes left, but there hasn't been a lot of discussion about open space and fields, and I thought maybe in this last couple minutes I might ask if there's any comments on the fields or open space. I will note that the field space that's shown here would not be a regulation size field, which would make it more open to the public for casual use and access, versus having it be reserved for sports and things like that. So I think that could be a positive to the community in terms of just having open access to that field and not having it be reserved for sports and events.
Being reserved becomes a community asset anyways. So for all these different recreational leagues for elementary school kids, we need tons of field space for that. So so I even think having that there is where it's not going to be taken up by a high school team. It's actually kind of convenient. You can have rec level, elementary school level teams out there. So that is a plus. But you do have a high school there with a team that won't have a functional enough real space to actually even host their own games or anything. I know it's Ultimate Frisbee, but like it'd be nice to have a home game eventually. So.
Indeed.
Right.
It's better than what we have now.
True. But,
and
if you can get the full field, it'd be nice.
Right. Well, the area that was that was allocated to the Career Center last year is so pathetic, and the community has kind of taken it over as a dog park. Like even, and so people would try to bring their dogs there even while PE class was in session at the location. Our PE teachers have had to talk to a lot of people about no class, this is not a dog park. Dogs are not allowed.
Were you guys on the upper level at TJ?
Good. Hey, we're gonna be booted out of this room in like less than 1 minute and put back into the main meeting. So I just want to say thank you for all the input. Thank you, Jim, for taking notes and helping facilitate. This has been a good discussion, and hopefully it'll continue. So we can continue chatting, but I just want to know we might be booted out in a second.
Right, and I think
Thank
and
you,
hope
Jim,
I've
for taking all
captured
the
your
notes.
thoughts reasonably accurately. But please let me know if you end up seeing something that doesn't sound right, and we'll take care of that.
Hey, are you guys stuck on the upper TJ parking spot or where? Oh, we're over.